Hello, 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 and welcome to Season 6, Episode 34 of Dualistic Unity. I am very enthusiastic and excited about the build that we've had, appreciative of, a lot of the groundwork. There's been so much laying of groundwork with things, I think, in the community with the not narrowing of community, but just prolonged nature of being able to build something like this and not rushing it necessarily. And so I've been appreciative of the time and effort and everything that's gone into the last 2.5, almost 3 years. And I'm feeling very enthusiastic recently and relaxed about what's at hand, what's to come. And that's where I would things I'd like to say at the start of this episode.
I feel that in a big way. It's really an appreciation for the littlest steps along the path rather than a fixation on the path itself. I find that every single thing I do for Dualistic Unity, for my life, whether it's working on the paperwork or it's hanging with my daughter, it's just that it has my full attention. And because of that, I find that when I look back occasionally, everything seems so wonderful that I can't help but appreciate my life in almost every way now, simply because of the quality of each step rather than some mythical end result that will make everything better. And I have really found that lately. Again, every moment is appropriate. Every day is full. And by the time I go to bed, it seems like an appropriate time to go to bed. And I get up in the next morning thinking to myself, I wonder what's going to happen today. Not trying to plan it, but wondering genuinely, knowing that there are some things that I think I should do, but knowing that from the moment I leave to go to, say, the grocery store, because today's grocery day, that path is not set. That I could run into anyone. I could run across a sign. I could run across a flyer. I could hear a scrap of an announcement over the radio that changes that path entirely, that modifies the entire day. And if I'm willing to live my life like that, everything is fucking miraculous. It is crazy how well things work out. That said, I wanted to announce to our listener, because of course not everybody is watching this live at the moment. By the way, listener, we are now getting into the habit of recording these classic episodes live. We tend to do it on Mondays at 4 p.m. Eastern time when we can. This is not a guarantee. That's why it's not on the schedule. But if you are around on a Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern time and you'd like to check out twitch.tv/Dualistic Unity or YouTube Live on our Dualistic Unity page, you may, in fact, find us recording one of these classic episodes live. But now you will find us recording these classic episodes live with a third person, Amanda. Amanda is now going to be a permanent co-host. I want to say co-host. I was just going to say host, a permanent host, because all of us feel individually like we are host. She's going to be a permanent co-host with Andrew and myself because our team has gone through some significant changes lately. As some of you know, Oren has left the High and Empowered podcast to pursue other things. He's got opportunities on his end. You can check out his activities on his Instagram feed, of course. And then over the weekend, we had a chat with Jackie. Jackie is also going to go in her own direction and pursue other things in her world. She's got other adventures to go on. And I just wanted to say that I'm really grateful and appreciative for the time that Jackie did spend with us. I mean, she was a friend and group member for a long time in the Patreon groups and on Discord and whatnot. And then I believe it was November, December, Jackie and I had talked about her wanting to be on a podcast. And so she's been nice enough to spend an hour to 2 hours here and there, week by week, since I believe the beginning of the year, recording episodes of Real on Fridays and occasionally classic episodes with Amanda as well. And we really appreciate that amount of time that she was able to put in. Not just that, but of course she would show up for groups from time to time and has always been a wonderful member of the community. And so we are really happy that Jackie was with us, and we are happy to say goodbye to Jackie as well, because of course it's all game. There's no sadness here on one level or another. Likewise, we have a new member of the team, two new members. Of course, we have Jazz, who has always been a team member at heart. I think Jazz has been running the Discord and helping in a lot of ways for well over a year. So Jazz is now our director of technological, I say advances, but that's not
Technological development.
Technological development, our director of technological development. And then on top of that, because we have enjoyed providing the yoga series to our audience so very much, we're going to be continuing the Being Yoga series. Andrew and our buddy Levi are going to be leading the charge on that. So there's going to be a slight difference in the yoga. There's going to be a slight difference in the dialogue, but I think it's going to be fucking dope. So I just wanted to say that. A lot of new things happening. And without any further ado, Amanda.
Hi, everyone. It is awesome to be here again and brand new in some ways, because I have been here for the Patreon calls long before I became a co-host, now a tri-host. No, I just invented that. No, but I didn't. It's just showing up for a conversation that's been ongoing and will be forever unfolding. And it's just exciting, and I'm incredibly curious. And yet I do feel like that calmness to the curiosity. And before my curiosity used to be very much paired with like a frenzied intensity. And now there's like this deeper curiosity that just has like a sense of calmness to the exploration, because now we're not so curious to find something to leverage it, to increase our value. Now we're curious for the sake of curiosity in itself. And the means is, it's not a means to an end anymore. It's very much enjoyed in a much more thorough way, but just still with like a sense of ease. So I appreciate that new element almost.
Yeah, it's like you don't need a reason so much anymore. And I've been feeling similarly, just more calm, relaxed, like the faith and appropriateness of everything has been a lot more appreciated. And I did want to say, in regards to the shifts and the changes, with Oren and Jackie, it's so appreciated, the involvement in everything and the parts you guys played along this journey of whatever the hell this is, doing things for lack of reasons and just continuing on. And I'm excited to see how they continue to ripple and do things in their lives. Like, I'm super excited to keep following along with Jackie. I know she's getting more and more involved in her yoga journey, to see how that all plays out with the teaching and everything. And it's super, super exciting. And of course, having Amanda as our creating our throst I came up with.
The tripod lives on.
The tri-host little situation there. But it's, because for those who don't know, Amanda has been heavily involved in all of this since basically the beginning. Like, we joke sometimes about how in the captions of the YouTube video, episode 1, within like the first part of it says Amanda. Like, I say something.
You're like, hi, my name is Andrew. It's like Amanda and Ray.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute.
Oh, is it on the name there?
It auto inserts right into the Absolutely.
That's so
Episode
funny.
1. It's in the captions if you look for it, for sure.
Oh man, it's like the things you notice and the things that play out, and that's been the more exciting thing. And in regards to Jazz and Levi as well, like, super excited. Like, Jazz has been heavily involved in my point before with Amanda's been heavily involved in so many components that I don't even know if I'm aware of, like, how much has gone into the researching with the documentation as well, and just everything you've helped. Like, the retreats would never have run nearly the same way if it was just the two of us
It
and
was
not
all of
having
us.
Amanda there.
Everybody would be eating bachelor chow.
Hey,
Oh
hey,
my
don't
God, that's
discount
like
Bachelor Chow.
pizza
I
and
have broed
burgers
out
every
as hard
night.
as the both of you, damn it.
Like,
You know, don't discount
absolutely.
my broness because there's ladiness also happening on the surface.
The brodacity.
Exactly, the brodacity of you.
Ugh,
You know what I
sweet.
mean? But you know, we all have made our contributions, including Jackie and Oren, and we will forever be grateful. And the contributions are not stopping; they're just changing shape. The contributions are just changing shape in the same way that life never really ends; it just transforms into another shape. And that's what we're seeing here: is that there's not an end, there's not a death, there's just a changing of the shape of this living and ever growing organism that we like to sometimes call dualistic unity.
Now, while we're on that subject, I really wanted to talk about this bit because we just finished our first round of investing, or rather, first round of investors. We're very excited that we have quite a few investors, and we've raised quite a good amount of money. We managed to sell 12% of our media company, which is fantastic. But we've also developed some great relationships with people who have expressed interest in doing other stuff with us, because we have a lot of other plans. Anybody who saw our original business presentation, or rather our initial pitch deck, saw that the podcast leads to other developments, specifically talking about the cannabis industry, opening up what might be a pro-cannabis real estate wing, having a dispensary on the ground floor. There's a bunch of really exciting stuff there. But then again, getting to the retreat property, cannabis cultivation, talking about psychedelic assisted therapy and educational seminars on that property, as well as numerous other projects and ultimately profitable projects as well. But then the overarching agreement that nobody makes over a certain amount of money. Everybody is paid the same amount of money within the company, which frees up a lot of extra income.
It does.
You know, if all of a sudden the company is making, you know, millions of dollars and one person's not taking $500,000 in a year for themselves, that's a lot of extra stuff, you know, that can go towards removing some of the costs on the employees themselves, but also delving into new areas that are informed by the people who join the team, people with skills that we don't have, people who do things that we don't do, people who have interests that we don't have.
Yep.
If we can find a way to help facilitate them while they work with us, and then turn that into a way to help other people again, this organism can just keep growing. But what you said about the changing nature of it is, I think, the part that I wanted to cover, because I think it's important to recognize this. And I say this to the listener because you've been with us for a while. You've been listening to the dialogue. You've been part of the dialogue. You've been part of the discussion, whether you realize it or not. I mean, this is all you. We are you. This is all part of the inner dialogue that is happening somewhere within your awareness right now that we are simply giving voice to.
Mm-hmm.
It's really important to recognize that, you know, but at some point, I'm not going to do this anymore. I really think it's important to recognize that at some point, this podcast, or possibly other branches of this podcast, will be hosted by other versions of you, possibly by you.
Right.
And that's just an entryway, because in the same way that I don't want to podcast forever, I want to learn how to cultivate marijuana. I want to learn how to grow my own food. I want to learn how to grow bonsai trees. I would love to learn a little bit more about boating. I'd like to learn how to play several musical instruments. You know, there's a number of things I'd like to do. I'd like to be involved
at some point.
You know, like, why the hell not? But there are things that I like to do that, once again, go back to inform DU, that is still me communicating with you, with the audience, with all of this, but in a different way, where it's not just me having the dialogue. It's not just us having the dialogue, because there are many different ways to have this discussion, and we can't cover them all. And so I look forward to that, to empowering the audience to one day become podcast hosts. And then beyond that, to one day take up something else. Maybe they want to take up, you know, cannabis cultivation. Maybe they have an interest in marketing, and we're like, well, shit, we do marketing. How can you help? And suddenly now they can learn from the ground up how to do marketing with a company that's legit. I mean, to be able to reinforce people's dreams and their resumes ultimately, right? It's like, what's that? You have no skill and you have no experience in this. Well, no problem. We got a bunch of people running that wing. They'd be happy to get you going on the ground floor. And then it's all up to you on how fast you learn. Like, why not have that opportunity? I've said this to people before. We get so caught up in the idea of having one career for life, and then we get fucking sucked into that, and it sucks. It becomes a prison sentence after a while, but we don't want to switch jobs because there's no security in that. Another company's not going to hire us to do something that we don't know how to do unless it's the same company.
Right.
Unless it's the same company that's got so many different wings,
Branches,
so many different branches, so many different functions, that if you want to switch, they help facilitate that. Maybe even help pay for your education if you need education in that field. These are all things that would be great to do as a company, as an organization. And so publishing books, developing games, exactly. These are all things that we can do. And these are things that we want you to be involved in. We want to facilitate your dreams. We want to make this possible for you if you just have the courage to let go of the need for more and to stick it out, to just keep going, to let things change as you do. Because as I said the other day, and I mean this sincerely, our reality reflects our authenticity. And I would like to say that Dualistic Unity reflects a level of authenticity that I am inspired by daily. And I'm excited to see it grow with each and every one of you, including you, listener.
Yeah, I am, man, that's like my thoughts about just what this could be and turn into, like being willing to just take steps and keep going without so much of a set path and trajectory. Because so much of my life, that's like what I was taught. You know, everyone's gone through this, whatever you want to call it, programming, conditioning, anything like. And so that shift to it being like, you know, I'm going to the grocery store, like you're talking about, and like, I don't know what's going to happen in between. I'm going to maintain attention to that, not get so caught up. It's like, that's reflective in a lot of our life. Like the grocery store could be, you know, the house you want to buy in 10 years. It could be the family you want to make when you're, you know, you're 17, say, thinking about the future, like, oh, one day I want to have a family. It's like, that's just another thing. And then, you know, when you're 65, you want to be retired, or you want to retire by this, whatever. It's like, there's all these things that are like equivalent to the grocery store. And those are the focus in all these varying points. But like, what can happen when it all settles into this? Like, there's no focus on needing so many of those things, coming from a feeling of lack, stemming from a point of lack that you're in right now. Like, what's possible? All of a sudden, like, as you were talking, it's like, all this could be an all-encompassing situation, like straight up legit corporation, business, holdings company. We have everything in place right now. And we have a beautiful filtration system with the podcast, you know, but that's not what this is exactly. Like, we're just here having a conversation. We're just here right now talking. And that's why anyone could sit here and talk. We're just talking, not, you know, doing things so entirely focused on ourselves or our perception or our value or that feeling where it's like, I have to do this, and how it goes means something so much about me. How I live my life means so much about me. Like, I need to get, you know, the $10 million and the house and the car, because that's going to do it. It's like, we all know that shit's not going to do it. Like, it's not the answer. It's not the thing. It's going to come with a lot of weight, a lot of baggage, a lot of additional stuff that'll just lead to more stress. Our priority is just not being super stressed all the time. And there's a degree of money where it's like, you don't have to think about money, but because you don't need so much, it's like, you don't have to spend in certain ways. And there's a beautiful point where it's just like, doesn't have to be a point of strain, but it's also, you're just doing cool things with your life. And so an organization, like, based upon that we have the filtration and everything, and then it's just expanding from there. It's like a blossoming instead of a trajectory, instead of a line with goals and set objectives. It's a mentality that it's rooted in. And then, it could be like, you know, someone comes up, it's like, oh, here's a project, could use some investment. They need this, they need a board member. Like, we got who we got here. And it's like, just a group of, like, you know, it's kicking off here. The last couple of years have been groundwork, but then it's like, you know, we could have thousands of people at that point, different departments, different components that are then, you know, work in this sort of relationship. And so, yeah, it's just really, really exciting that it's like everything's on the table. We were talking about like the sort of, I was appreciating the randomness in our Instagram story today, just of like, you know, the food review and then the Jesus commentary on seductive Jesus, and just like having fun with things, enjoying our life. And like you mentioned, like our niche is life, which is our leash. Yeah, no. But yeah, it's like that's it. You know, it's like living, experiencing from a more relaxed point of view, not so like I'm the most important thing to me. And a situation built upon that, it's like it's fucking incredible, the potential in that, when it's like the focus is doing things, doing cool shit without necessarily a reason, from a certain perspective, that there's like all of these natural sort of components of it that kind of speak for themselves. And so it's just exciting.
Oh, absolutely. It's becoming easier to see how the biggest priority, when focused on for a prolonged period of time, just starts to have a gravitational pull. And the longer a priority is maintained, the bigger that gravitational pull, and the more things start to feed it, and the more it starts to almost expand. And we're seeing that with our priority of this moment is enough. This is one way to express how this moment isn't lacking, how we in the moment, as the moment, expressing the moment as the moment's awareness is enough, and how that priority is expressed as a podcast, is expressed as a conversation, is expressed as a business. And this is generally, in my imagination, how cities were developed, is that one priority was maintained, and as it was maintained, it was pulling in other things, other bits of attention, and as more attention fed into it, it expanded, and then it became a village, and then that village's priority expanded again and pulled in more attention from more people, and then expanded again and became a city, which became a civilization, which became the world. And the world that we're living in is just a reflection of the largest priority, which was identity and comfort and distraction. And this is just another expression of how a different priority is being maintained, and we're getting to see firsthand what that looks like as it's growing and as it's expanding.
Yeah, I like the imagery of the tree, and I think that's one thing I'm looking forward to in season 7, where we're going to be rebranding a little bit, and so our logo is going to be updated to include possibly a tree growing out of the eye, up from the top and down through the bottom with its roots, because I like the organic nature of that. The entire tree is living for the entire tree. It's not that any one part of the tree is living for itself, right? Whether it realizes it or not. Whereas our society, as you just said, is permeated by selfishness. It's not that we can't work together. It's that we work together and somebody goes, well, shit, I could use this to my advantage. And there's always that. And it's just because there isn't really a collective recognition of that danger. I mean, it's not like there's no collective recognition in religion or anything like that. Like, quite literally, it's like, don't be a dick. Don't be selfish. Stop coveting things. Don't kill people. Stop, like all of that stuff. Like, it's just like, don't do that. But it's a rule rather than a recognition. And that's because the dialogue around it has really fallen away. Instead of it being how you affect the collective, it's you've pissed off God.
Right.
That's really what it is. And so there's no
You've broken a rule.
empathy that drives it. There's no sensitivity that drives it. But that doesn't mean that we can't use that very intelligence that created all of this with a little less of that selfish distortion. And that's what I like about this organization or this company as it grows, is that we have an opportunity to help provide for the people who are a part of this organization. We have an opportunity to help even push out beyond our organization and help other organizations later on in the future in the way that our government could, in the way that our government has always had the ability to do so, but is strangled by the selfishness of the people who are running it. Who have been running it generationally, by the schooling system that trains those motherfuckers on how to think. Like there's an opportunity for us as Dualistic Unity to help provide for people in a way that the government was meant to, right? Without governing them, but facilitating a place where they can govern their own fucking lives, you know, and just to facilitate that. That's all we were ever supposed to do with each other, is make life a little less fucking arduous.
Yeah, like facilitating the expression of intelligence, like the expression of reality, the authentic expression of reality. I've always thought of this in the groups, well, not always, progressively, as more
currently.
of the currently for sure, as like a facilitation, you know, like any of the groups or anything like that. It's pretty much always been. There was a little more like I thought there was something specific to get or learn, and it's not to say there's not a conversation surrounding stuff, but it's like that's not really what it comes down to in talking about it or saying any of the right words. It's just being yourself. There's no right words. It's like where the words come from more than anything. And so the facilitation, there can't be a direction for someone else. It's not like anyone's getting on groups and it's like, hey, what's the answer to this thing? It's the same with our DU Life Troubleshooter with Eon. Like it's not giving answers, it's giving potentially, shout out Eon Lightfoot, we love you,
Considerations.
it's giving alternative perspectives, or like a few different considerations coming from, like, a lot of times things are tougher to wrap your head around if you're stressed, if you're thinking about yourself, if you're trying to measure yourself or maintain yourself. It's like things are more difficult to look at or choose. It's like you're very much looking at situations or reality through a foggier filter. And so things like that can just help, I don't know, like clear a bit from a certain perspective where it's not so, foggy, but it's not necessarily giving any sort of answer or doing anything. Because even then it's like pretty much all the time, it's like take action, find out, like curious about what to do, choose something and pay attention to it as you go. And it's more so the paying attention once you choose to do things that's the priority, instead of the decision itself and what it's going to get you. It's like, because if it's the decision and what it's going to get you, it's like these unknown random points that then it's like, I'm going to decide on this to get this. And you almost miss that whole period of actually doing it, the process. You want someone else to fill that in with a structure, and then you just follow the structure, and then thinking that once you've followed the structure and figured that out, like you're going to be able to enjoy your life as you sell that structure to someone else or try and pitch that structure to someone else. And it's like, there's no structure to follow. And if that's the case, like, can we just keep going, and can we, create a bunch of opportunities where people are like at least relaxed enough to not look for the structure so much, and just space to cultivate some of that faith or opportunity.
Right. And to call it what it is, like the structures are really just another word for a shortcut. We want the structure so badly because what we don't want to admit out loud is that every single structure is an attempt to shortcut paying attention, to shortcut having to need to develop that sensitivity and thinking that it will work, despite the fact that you cannot shortcut life, which makes me think of the movie Click with Adam Sandler, who tries to shortcut things via a remote control. But the remote control that we use in society is just structures and rules and laws and obligations and requirements. And the shortcuts / AKA structures don't work.
No, they don't. But it's just that. It's what you said. It's kind of a guarantee. That's what it feels like. It's like, this has worked for numerous people, so therefore it will work for me. It's like, yeah, but what do you mean by work? Like, what do you mean by work? That you'll get to the end result, or that your life will have changed and grown and become more fulfilling with each and every step? Because that's the problem with the shortcuts, is that you're not actually making the journey, which was the point.
You're not living.
The destination was never the point. It was each and every step that made the destination worthwhile. We forget that. We're just like, no, it's the end result. It's like, it's not, though, because if you get to the end result without the journey, you won't appreciate
It's
it.
hollow.
Yeah,
The destination
absolutely.
becomes more hollow the fewer steps you take to get there.
Exactly. It's like walking upstairs, like you're on the ground floor, like thinking that you get to the top floor, it's going to be this whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
So you go through all these steps, like top floor, top floor, top floor. Then you get to the top floor, it's the exact same flooring situation as the bottom floor.
Top floor, promised land.
Okay, maybe it's about the steps. Maybe it's about the steps. Maybe it's about focusing on the experience of being in the steps. And that's where life is. Like, that's where everything's happening, is in the steps. Like,
Right.
you know, the process of the feeling of your body, the flavor in food, like those sort of things are things that you can almost expand when you're paying attention. Like when the meal isn't about, you know, being there and getting a picture for Instagram so people know you went to this restaurant and it's so cool. It's like that has nothing to do with not only the meal you get, it's the bite that you have, it's the chewing, it's the, you know, feeling, the flavor, the taste, like even being able to focus on different flavors in the food. It's like that's life right there. And it's not a thing that, you know, of course, to live and survive, like need certain amounts, but like to, you know, pay for the needs, food, shelter, all of that. But like beyond that, like those experiences rarely have very much to do with money. Yeah. Like the experience, the actual experience itself, when it's not so much about, you know, doing the thing, like even vacation, it's like the opportunity, like what is really the benefit to like be in a certain situation that is like the most comfortable sort of situation. Like I typically prefer, if there's like time off, very much a balance, like doing things, like experiencing more life, not just being like relaxation and comfort don't necessarily equate. Like there's the opportunity to be relaxed despite any sort of comfort, discomfort. And oftentimes relaxation is something that can be more like not understood, but like cultivated through going through just more and more experiences. Because you expand your experiences a little bit, it's like that real that there's in the shift there can be less relaxation until you just kind of settle in to that, but then your world's expanded, and it's really about like expanding my world right now. Like I want to expand my experiences, I want to do more stuff. Like life is happening, I'm alive, like sitting and lying down and, you know, doing things like that. It's like time's ticking, and I don't know what that number, none of us know what that fucking clock is that we got in our timing. So it's like, yeah, and there can be a lot of things that feel like they're in the way of that. But like, if you're not focused so much on you thinking that your value is measurable, that it means something about you inherently, that you're the most important thing, that you have to take yourself really seriously, the potential opens up a lot.
Well, and that's something that, you know, I know it's hard to communicate, but like all of us want somebody to just fucking, you know, believe in what we believe in. You know, we want to be supported, we want to be encouraged, we want to be part of a team, you know, not a hierarchy, but a genuine team, you know, just in the same way that you had a bunch of buddies when you were a kid, you all just kind of went out and did shit. Nobody was the leader, nobody was in charge, right? But that was it. And so I think that's what I like about Dualistic Unity, is that the potential is there to do so many things. Like right now, listener, for example, you might have an idea. Maybe you have a business. Maybe there's something that you're trying to grow. Maybe you have a really good product or service or idea, but you don't have the wherewithal or the means to get it out there. You don't have an audience that's engaged with it. And you have that mentality where you think to yourself, if I could just get this off the fucking ground, I would be glad to live with only a set amount per month and then put out everything else into helping even more people to have this opportunity.
Yeah.
If I could just have this opportunity, if you could see how you can pay it forward, if somebody would just help you pay it forward, if you're willing to live like that, if that's something that excites you, fucking reach out. Reach out, because more likely than not, we are happy to look at that idea. We are happy to look at it, look at whether or not it aligns well with Dualistic Unity, the conversation that we're having. Because again, we're not out there to make a huge profit, because all the profit we make, we want to push out into giving other people the same opportunity that we're talking about giving you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. If we all do that, if we're all there for each other, if we're all willing to give each other that opportunity, so long as it's not selfishly driven,
Mm-hmm.
what's possible? What could we make? What could the world become?
Mm-hmm. It could go in any direction, and I love that, you know, the profit isn't the focus, but if we're talking about having the freedom to invest, you know, that is one way that we would spend money. It would just be spent in, you know, from a larger perspective than just I am spending the money that I want. It's like, technically that would be the way that I would want to spend it. I'd want to invest it in someone who also has an amazing idea and get that thing launched off the ground, buy the fuel, send this rocket into the sky immediately. You know, that is the way that I would want to spend the money. It's just that I don't put my name on those dollars, but I still would be able to, you know, see that get invested in a way that just benefits more than just me in the small sense. You know, it benefits me in the larger sense, because life is expressed in such a cool way, and I'm here for that.
Yeah, I think that's it. We're all here for that. You know, it's
Yeah.
just that it goes again with that diminished commitment to the idea of yourself, because when you're not so committed, sharing just makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
When you're not thinking about you and all your fears, you're like, whoa, it just makes sense that we all benefit. You know, a rising tide lifts all ships. You know,
Exactly.
that's simple enough. But when you're thinking just about your ship, you're like, how do I get more water than everybody else? It's just, it becomes, you know, ridiculous, but you can definitely live that way. And so to actually have a company that grows without that being the center, without that being the actual focus is really exciting. And it's been super exciting to work with our new investors and to work with our new team members and to work to see where this goes. I don't even know what I'm going to be doing in like 5 years. You know, that's the cool thing. What's cool about it, though, is that it's going to have something to do with facilitating all of this. You know, maybe I'll go scouting around the country looking for projects that we want to fund.
Oh my God. And then we're the guests on the podcast. We come back as guests. Somebody's going to interview, like somebody else who took over. What the fuck have you guys been up to? How long do we got? We can tell you.
Yeah, we've been around. I just got back from like opening up a retreat center in Southeast Asia.
Exactly.
Oh my
Who
God,
knows?
it'd be amazing.
Who knows?
Yeah,
absolutely.
overseeing the construction, learning about construction while we do so.
It's the jungle there.
Yeah.
Like, who knows? It is exciting though, because like even the potential, because it's a business, it's not even necessarily, you know, a person with a set amount of money doing things. They want to do cool stuff. They have a pool here. It's like, these are cool things that are happening, like with the investment stuff like that makes money. And this is like a growing thing as we do more things, and it like expands. And for the, like, we've been around for 2.5 years. It's not like this just kicked off. This is a new thing, but like, it's with the advertising push, with things that we have, like, it's going to feel like a new thing in a sense, because there's going to be, you know, growing audience, you know, more people on calls.
Oh yeah, where's Little Sprout?
And
the little seed has broken through. We have broke through the soil, and we have just seen the sun for the first time.
We have strong enough roots.
That's
That's what I mean. I feel like we're
Yeah.
about to see the sun. We're seeing it peek through the top soil.
Oh yeah, you can feel the light.
Yeah,
Sure.
you can. We can. All right. We haven't seen it. We're about to see it.
Yeah.
That's what it does feel like. We're on the verge of sunlight.
And it's like, it needs those roots to feel that way, to move in some different directions. But it feel, you know, if anytime someone is trying to create some sort of long-term sustainable thing, like it can feel like you're going in the opposite direction sometimes, like digging in, like roots are going the other way, but they're super necessary.
Yeah.
And so because there is, you know, not a specific conversation, but like this is stemming from a mentality that has to be the priority with everything. But it's not like anything to do is off limits, like in terms of options and whatnot. It's just like there's a different set of things that make sense. And maybe there's same things that make sense, but from a different point of view, from a different perspective.
For sure.
And like the way that you spend your time, there isn't the focus so much on all of that. But it's been, again, like I was saying at the start, just an appreciation for like the foundation that we built. Like it feels very strong and sturdy. Like we had that, you know, expansion quick that summer, like a big swell. And it's kind of like things have settled into a spot now, and now it's like, yeah.
And the groups have
perfect
changed.
timing.
The
Yeah.
conversation
Very
has
much so.
evolved. Everything has found, a firmer footing. Somebody asked, does the sun equal money? No, the sun would be expression, attention for sure. Because over the last 2.5 years, we've been focusing on just potential, just growing potential, which meant being here, having the conversation, watching people come in and out, watching the groups grow, eventually becoming events, things like that. Like, it really is just the growth of the discussion. But now the growth of the discussion is actually leading to growth in terms of other projects, growth in terms of new opportunities to once again bring more awareness to the discussion, which will grow more attention and more involvement. And so the sun is you. You're the sun. The audience is the sun. The attention and the time that you spend just growing yourself and having, I guess, taking the moment to share some of that growth with us. Not us here on the podcast, not us, the community, but us, the collective, us, humanity. Just going out there and being yourself, and being a ripple of change. That's very much the sun. But eventually that sun hits everything and hits everyone. And we've been watching it for 2.5 years, just slowly growing. And we can feel that sunrise coming. We can feel that sunrise, warming. And it's very cool to watch the business, this tree of ours, growing in conjunction with it. It's exciting.
I was getting thoughts of, like, with the sun and the money, like, it's kind of crossover with son of God sort of thing, but like actual son and God in the sense of like informed by or enthusiasm, like kind of the relationship to enthusiasm, being like the son of God, like powered by enthusiasm. Because with that perspective of God that we've touched on a little bit more recently, like God is like the antithesis of selfishness. It's like, if God is everything, all that is, like acting quote unquote as God is acting for the whole, acting unselfishly, acting as the body itself, like being that cell in a body with the perspective of quote unquote God isn't this like high-minded, otherworldly sort of thing. It's just taking in considerations beyond those lines of the cell. And so God isn't this like, so egotistical. You're acting as God, doing as God. It's like acting as God is like showing up as yourself, untethered, like very sensitive, but not with so many thoughts about yourself. It's like not this, of course, it's become this egotistical point of view where it's basically like, peak, highest, like godlike powers. It's like this powerful, controlled sort of thing, because that's the extreme of ego. Ultimate control, ultimate power, can do anything it wants, and like shifting that to being like the perspective of God being the most humble, the least, and whatever words you want to use, but like least selfish, like of acting as the body, isn't this like powerful sort of thing. It's the most almost casual thing, and just but attentive and sensitive, and just not putting yourself first. So often your opinion, your point of view is, which can be, there can be this feeling of like, not about my opinion, not about my preference, blah blah blah, like, oh no, like am I losing myself, blah blah blah.
Am I not gonna get what I want?
Because it seems like that's the most important thing for a while. It's like my preference, my opinion is a driving factor. It's just not living your life with that being the windshield so much. It's like that's in the the rear view, or in the back thing is like, oh yeah, those are back there. And in situations where it's like in the moment, it's like you have a preference towards eating burgers, like get a burger. It's not about doing that, but it's an overarching sense of living your life without so much of the perspective of thinking that there's going to be a point where you're more, and which immediately goes with the feeling of being less, like becoming something. It's like you're it, but from there it can shift. So that's all.
That's absolutely fair. It very much is. It's exciting because, again, the world shifts little bits at a time. So because again, this is often where the argument is like, oh yeah, so you want to go to communism. It's like, No, actually, I think that there's a path that's entirely separate from the selfish mentality that requires an overarching government. I think that through little things, through just recognizing that the you that you're thinking about, the needs that it has, the fears that drive it, the sense of lack that goes with it, all of that stuff, just recognizing that that's not the truth, that that's not reality, that you don't need to respond to that, all of a sudden creates different relationships with everybody in your life.
Yeah.
It creates less selfishness a little bit with everybody in your life. But from that little bit of less selfishness, add a year, 2 years, 10 years of a little less selfishness, all of a sudden a little less selfishness isn't such a big leap, because the overall level of selfishness has diminished. And so to me, there is a path there, year by year, generation by generation, of just being less selfish that yields a society, a way of living, possibly a way of government, though I hesitate to use the word government because who knows what it could be.
Mm-hmm.
But through that long process of just slowly letting go of our commitment to the idea of self, there will be an entirely different kind of world that forms. But we keep wanting to know what that world is. Well, we're selfish.
I can't have it both ways. What do you mean? What do you mean I can't say that, this is too overwhelming or I'm not getting enough opportunity? How could you say I can't have it both ways? Oh my goodness. But it's just that's the stance we take, is that we're thinking about it is the same thing as doing it. And that is not the case.
No. It's like, and to think that it could be something that's figured out, and that is what we've seen with something like communism, is this sense of like a specific, it's like, this is the right way, the correct way. It's still very much that mentality of that being the case. And that's why it has to be organic. Like, it has to stem from like a different point, a different root, in a sense. Like, it's got to be stemming from a different tree, pretty much. Like, there is an existing tree that includes, like, we've used that, or one of us has talked about it at some point, with the tree sort of analogy being, and like another component of that being like two trees, like the Hawkins thing with the different endpoints of like ego, unity, perspective sort of thing. Like, there is a different sort of thing happening. And so all the things that we focus on, the suffering, the product of the existing tree, are most of the things we're looking at, like the ends of the branches, the leaves, the products of selfishness that have just over time, as you were talking about, a world created from steps of a little bit less selfishness, is right now we have a product of just like a lot of steps of selfishness. And so it seems like this thing that's like, and it's like being so far removed from that root, because there was a root with this mentality too over time, like in existence, in eternity. Like, there was at some point a root where this expanded and grew like a virus in a body. And this is just like recognizing, it doesn't have to be virus, but it comes from us. Like, the virus is quote unquote within us. It's not to say that it's your fault. We're kind of all, it's the tree we are growing in, whatever, but it's still a potential ability to, at least, and a lot of it comes from the psychological suffering that we experience from trying to become more. Like, there's consequences that are placed, like kind of naturally placed, to keep us in check, almost as existence, as a experience of like humanity, this perspective. Like, those buffers are almost there, are reminders. And I feel like we're at a point where we're just hitting up against like the control, the selfishness. Like, it doesn't get us what we want. It doesn't get us to that point.
Nope.
And so this is just, a different tree, but all the things that we focus on trying to fix, we're trying to fix this tree that's like dying off, that has, tons of war, suffering, greed, extreme homelessness, like extreme.
We're trying to kill the tree while we water it.
Exactly.
Makes a lot of sense.
We're playing into it because like some are comfortable enough, like the valuable resource right now being money is under control by those who are able to subdue that discomfort enough, convince themselves that they're relaxed, they're good, while they continue to try and be more and measure themselves and keep having to keep off all those internal, doubts and concerns and sense of lack. Like you can still absolutely maintain a very strong sense of lack, that then you have to keep everything under control, or just think that that's, your lot as it is. And you try and do your best from that point, not realizing that there's still a root there. So this is a different tree growing that's going to have different, branches and leaves, and we don't know what the fuck those are going to look like.
And a different fruit entirely.
Different.
Because the roots are different priorities.
Amen.
So as the priority is watered, it will bear, different fruit. And so our priority has been fear and protection against that fear, and control to protect against that fear. And so all those roots have just been watered for so long that it just makes sense that we have this mighty fear oak that's grown and the roots have wrapped around the entire globe, and you can't see the ground anymore. All you see are the roots of fear.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. Well, this has been fun. I'm really glad that we've covered this, because I think it's important to talk about dualistic unity, especially here as a team, because frankly, we didn't know what this was. I still don't know what it is. What I continue to do is have moments of recognition of what it's become and what's possible. The doors we've walked through and the doors that we are currently seeing open. It's incredible. It's just fucking amazing. And so again, if you are passionate and you are not driven by making sure that you above all else are taken care of, if you aren't perceiving that division to the same degree, and you're curious if there's a way that we can work together, definitely reach out. Let us know. Likewise, if you are interested in investing with Dualistic Unity, as I said, we have a lot of projects coming up. We are going to have another investment round coming up for one of those projects, if not a few of those projects. So if you are interested in investing, definitely check out dualisticunity.com/invest. Just fill in the information. Let us know what kind of project you're interested in, and of course, why you would like to join, because that's very important to us. If you're simply looking for profit, if you're simply looking for, the usual investment, if you're not necessarily doing this as a result of the work that you're doing on yourself, then I would suggest that maybe just spend a little bit more time. Don't rush into it. We're not going anywhere. We're always going to be here. And as I said earlier, there's always going to be more for us to do. There's always going to be a way for you to get involved. Maybe just work on yourself first. We're not looking for the money. We're more interested in you and the authenticity that will reflect through what you do. So that said, I think we're going to sign off here. I want to say thank you to the listener, to our audience members, everybody who's here today. It's been a hell of a ride, and we are looking forward to finishing off season 6 over the next 8 episodes. We're going to wrap up on episode 43 while we work in the background on some of the exciting shit that we're doing with Dualistic Unity, with the rebranding, with the website changes. Jazz is all over that. There's some great shit happening, and we can't wait to see what it will be. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.